President Trump issuing a blunt ultimatum to NATO countries, saying he's ready to impose major sanctions on Russia, but only if they stop buying Russian oil. Moscow said this week that negotiations to end the war in Ukraine are going nowhere. It also comes just days after Russian drones were shot down inside Polish airspace. We've got full coverage of these developments. With us now is CNN senior White House reporter Betsy Klein and correspondent Nada Bashir in London. Betsy, to you first. Is this another shift in the relationship between the president and NATO allies?
Well, it could mark a shift, but President Trump issuing a major ultimatum to these NATO countries, saying that the U.S. is ready to apply major sanctions on Russia only if NATO countries agree to do the same and to stop buying Russian oil. He said this in a letter to these countries issued earlier this morning. And the president also said in that letter that those countries should significantly ramp up those tariffs on China to 50 to 100%, marking a major show of force. But meeting President Trump's demands would mark a major shift in policy for these NATO countries. It's really unclear at this point if there is going to be collective interest in taking these steps. But I want to read to you from the president's letter. He says, quote, NATO's commitment to win has been far less than 100%, and the purchase of Russian oil by some has been shocking. It greatly weakens your negotiating position and bargaining power over Russia. Now, many of these countries still import Russian liquefied natural gas as well as fossil fuels. Turkey, which is a NATO member, is also a major importer of Russian oil. And this is also generally not how these countries approach the use of tariffs. So all of this setting up a major test for President Trump's influence. And it all comes as momentum toward ending Russia's war in Ukraine has significantly stalled in recent days. The president says that his patience with Russian President Vladimir Putin is running out and running out fast. And he was asked yesterday how he could put more pressure on Russia. Listen.
What is clamping down on Vladimir Putin?
Well, it'll be hitting very hard with sanctions to banks and having to do with oil and tariffs also. But I've already done it. I've done a lot.
The president's latest demands risk prolonging this conflict, and time is a valuable commodity for Putin. It gives Russia the ability to make more gains on the battlefield and shore up control of some of those occupied areas. Frederica.
All right, Betsy, thanks so much. And Nada, to you. NATO countries have launched what they're calling Operation Eastern Sentry in reaction to Russia's incursion into Poland's airspace. Where do things stand?
That's right. We expect this operation to be launched into the coming days. This is a collaboration between NATO member states, including the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Denmark and other nations. The intention, according to the NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, is to bolster defences along NATO's eastern flank in the face of growing Russian threats and aggression. This is, of course, something that is more of a preparedness exercise, of course, demonstrating NATO's posture in the face of potential Russian aggression. And we're expecting to see military hardware, fighter jets deployed from these nations as part of that operation. Of course, as you mentioned, Frederica, this follows that incursion into Polish airspace by Russian drones, the majority of which, according to Poland's leader, came from Belarus. Now, of course, it's important to remember that all of this is happening as Russia and Belarus carry out joint military drills, and that has certainly set the alliance on edge somewhat. The last time we saw drills of this sort was back in 2021, and some Western military officials have said that that served as a screen or pretext for Russia's eventual invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. Now, at this stage, it's looking like those military drills are at a much smaller scale than the previous drills. The vast majority of Russia's combat capabilities are tied up in the war in Ukraine, particularly in the eastern Donbass region at this current point in time. But there is certainly a feeling of NATO alliance members being on edge as we continue to see Russia bolstering its own defences and seemingly trying to show its military capabilities in the region. And of course, now we're hearing these remarks from the US president, clearly some mounting pressure there on NATO members to do more, particularly, as Betsy mentioned, as these ceasefire talks and negotiations appear to have stalled. Frederica.
All right, Nada Bashir in London and Betsy Klein, thank you so much.